Hi friend, we're here to talk about This Is Us, and I'm not going to go back to season 1 and episode 1, but just talk about the latest episodes that I've watched. And this is going to start with New York, New York, New York, and it's a apt title for the episode because it's 3 trips to New York, 2 with when they're in middle school, and one of them when they're in middle school and one when they are teenagers, and a current New York trip as well to Kevin's premiere for his new movie. And just to talk about This Is Us overall, it's such an emotionally charged show, and it seems like a lot of shows, try to incorporate the emotion, and it feels like This Is Us. It's just such great writing. I mean, every episode is so well crafted. Yeah, it's, I'm not a critic, TV critic, or I don't know much about the craft, but just simply with viewership, I can see, the difference in quality with this show versus other dramas as well. And maybe I'd put, The Good Wife, up with this show. That's another where it seems like a lot of work has gone into the background, a lot of people who are passionate about the show, and that comes through in the writing and, how it's all put together, and of course the actors and actresses as well. And yeah, I always, after every This Is Us episode, I feel just I have to take a breath to just, with a lot of shows, you can just immediately put on another episode or switch to another show and it's almost forgotten about, or with This Is Us, it always leaves some sort of residue, some just processing of what's been watched, and you always hear about characters having layers and depth, and it can sound a bit cliche, but with this show, it's so appropriate to say that. So a lot of the show, this episode, is about Rebecca and her relationship to New York and the Met Museum as well. It's shown in, where she's tried to get there and look at this painting that she saw as a child, and I can't remember the name of the painting now, but there's a clip where she's there as a little child and she's watching a woman who's just, just absorbing the painting. The woman's not in a rush, she's just reveling in what she's looking at, and it shows the attempts that Rebecca tries to get back there, and in the 2 other trips with the children, it doesn't happen. One of them is, when they plan a whole day with the children where everyone gets to do what they want to do, and of course Jack selflessly says, you guys do what you need to do and I'll figure something out, and then they eventually, when things don't go as planned for Rebecca, he last minute does a horse and carriage ride, which I thought was really, really nice. And nice, he seems to, Jack just has that in him where, when something needs to be done or saved or fixed, he's great. He's very resourceful and thoughtful as well in trying to make up for Rebecca not going to the museum. And in the other trip, where they go to see acting, Kevin's improv, I think he's doing an improv scene, and you really get to see, Randall and Kevin's relationship and just how explosive it is, even from a young age. They've always had there's a huge, like, dynamic relationship there. Things are always shifting and moving, and it feels like that, that's gathered momentum. And now in the current storyline, where Rebecca's unwell, and I can just see Randall just is so sure on what he wants to do, and it reveals that it leads back to the night when Jack goes in, when the fire's happening, and Randall, feels responsible for that night. And I think, remember in the show, it showed Kate feeling guilty because she was going back for Kate's dog, so it's quite natural for her to feel that. But it's revealed, of course, Randall felt loads of guilt there, where he should have done something. And now that's transferring to his mum with Rebecca. And it's just, what I find there is that there's no right or wrong. Randall has got his view and what he wants to do, and Kevin's got his, and it just really displays that there's, in regards to emotional stuff, there's never really like a right answer, because it's not a science. It's not, it's all, to be, what's the word? It's just a perception. It's abstract in some ways, and I think there's a scene in the future that they showed, I don't know if it was this season or last season, where Kevin and Randall are not talking, and perhaps this is the start of that, or this is, a big crack in their relationship, because there's always been small cracks there, and they've kind of made up or put stuff aside, but then it seems to have undone, or damaged their relationship further. And it seems like, all the small cracks now, it affects that as well, and everything, comes to the surface. And I find it's one of these shows where I don't really have, almost a side. It's just, all a favourite character, really. I find are all so well done. I've noticed that perhaps with Kate's character, there isn't a huge amount going on for her right now. She had the storyline with her baby and dealing with that, and her husband as well. And yeah, it just seems like, the kind of juicy storylines, or the intense ones, revolve around Randall or Kevin, Kevin's addictions, and Randall dealing with family, which is just such a great dynamic, him and Beth and the children. But what did you think of the show, this episode? And what parts did you like? I notice, all the time, with when they kind of show, the past and the present, which is running all through the show mostly, it's always seamless. Sometimes there's obvious connections, like this episode, where they're actually, running kind of parallel stories with other trips to New York, but other times it may not be so obvious, but it's still so seamless. I don't feel like I've been taken out of the storyline when they go back to the past. I've never had that experience, and this one especially. And I'm really finding also, Randall being in therapy really quite great television, because of course it goes against all of his nature, because he's always supposed to be the person who's always okay and good and fixing and helping others, and that's rooted, I guess, from things that happened with Jack, and he's dealing with his own anxiety as well, and trying to get on top of that. And at the end of the episode, towards the end, reveals that Randall's, every day he thinks about what could have been different with Jack, and you can imagine everything he's holding on to. All of that energy is stuck in the past still, and Kevin's kind of moved on, and he doesn't have those thoughts each day, it seems like, but for Randall it's like his energies are so split between him. He's dealing with his own health, the panic attacks. He's dealing with just trying to be someone who's responsible and in control, dealing with, he's carrying the past with him, clearly. And that's got to take a lot out of him. And I love the scene where, Rebecca finally gets to see the painting, and, she's there with Randall and Kevin, and, I'm glad she is able to have time for that. And then she says she's not going to do the trial, and it's understand, you can understand that decision. She wants to, not have, next times of when she can see and experience stuff like she's had for her whole life. She wants to just focus on just living, the most fulfilling life possible until her health gets to a certain deterioration. And it does, because, again, I love those little flash forwards, because it just shakes things up, and that's when, I think it's Rebecca's, like, kind of on her deathbed, really, where, people go around to the house, and it's the house that Kevin built next to the cabin, I think, the huge one. I think that's where Rebecca lives in the end. And yeah, and everyone that, I can't imagine that scene. And, you can almost just think this show could go on for like 20 seasons. It's got so much story, so many things flash forward, which are like, 10 years, 20 years ahead, it seems like. And yeah, so I hope that, the show does get, is well-rounded in that respect. It's not just loads of things far off in the future that never really get opened up and unpacked and seen, but it seems like whatever they show, they always come back to, or things always link up to it. So it's part of that same canvas that they're giving, and who knows how many seasons that will be. But I look forward to seeing more of Kevin and Randall, and part of me is not looking forward to perhaps their relationship exploding more and more. And there's so much intensity there, even, when after Kevin's improv, the teenage trio, or duo in this case, they're in the restaurant, and Kevin sets up, Rebecca with somebody, and Randall is so overprotective, or protective of Rebecca. It's an opinion if you think it's overprotective, but yeah, he's so worried and concerned, and it's just, that's where, it all starts, when, he feels like he feels like now he needs to, because he didn't say anything to Jack before when he was running the house, he needs to step up and be maybe overprotective of Rebecca. But again, it left me just having to process after, the last scene. I think it's on where they're outside the steps of the Met, and Randall and Kevin. That's when he says to Kevin that every day I've been thinking about it, and it's almost it feels like that's something against Kevin's nature, or something he doesn't agree with, that he should be living life like that, or you should think things will be different. And they kind of, you almost see the opposites of Kevin and Randall's nature in that place. And I look forward to the next episode, and which I'm going to talk about now, but I'll probably put it up in a separate upload. It may make it a bit easier to understand. But thanks for joining me for this discussion on New York, New York, New York. I love that title. And yeah, I'll speak to you again in the next one. Take care. Bye.